What do you know about Germany? Better yet, who do you know from Germany? How about Arnold the Get to the Chopper Schwarzenegger? Well, technically he's from Austria, but who's counting? Or Ralph the Gladiator Müller? Let's throw yet another name into the mix.
Hi, this is Matthias Hues.
Have you heard of him? I bet you've seen Matthias but can't put the name to the face. Well, we are about to load yet another story reel into the hand-cranked camera. Matthias Hues started his movie career in a way that could easily be plotline in one of his own action films. Where was Matthias back in the 80s? He was training in track and field as a promising athlete, although he had some interest in judo and taekwondo since they were just next door. Martial arts were never his calling. He trained 6 days a week, competing all over the Europe. At 6'5", he was intimidating just standing next to him on the track. As a side hustle, he owned his own fitness center. Gotta make some extra cash to feed all that muscle. One day, a girl Matthias had a huge crush on brought in Sport and Fitness magazine with Dolph Lundgren on the cover. Oh man, Dolph was the perfect guy. A dream, said girl. That had to hurt. Having a crush, parade, someone like Dolph right in front of you. Later that year, Rocky IV came out, and Matthias got in line, bought a ticket, and watched the whole movie with a simple thought in mind: this dude looks like a god. I have to try this out. Pack a bag and go to LA. And challenge Dolph.
Kind of.
If he can do it, I can do it too, though I'm not as good looking or as tall, or so he thought. We will revisit that later. So he grabbed his life savings of $1,400, hopped on a plane, and flew on a journey to America. If you wanted to be an actor, that's where you went back in 80s. Slight detour, since I do like to investigate height claims when it comes to the movie industry. Usually I'd advise to deduct an inch or two from any claims made by celebrities. But not this time. This is a legitimate 6'5" guy. An absurdly huge dude with a truckload of muscle. Pictures don't do him justice. He dwarfs a regular human being. No wonder he played a menacing alien in Dark Angel. You'd cross the street just to avoid him. Okay, back on the track with the story. If you're big and tall, in a fitness way that is, where do you go first? Of course it's Gold's Gym, the mecca of bodybuilders and big dudes in LA, including a few particular big names: Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Matthias applied for his dream job at the gym, picking up and re-racking weights. One busy day at work, the gym manager stopped by and told Matthias that if he was still interested in getting into the movie business, here was his chance. Dolph Lundgren would be having a dinner at a certain place at a certain time. He was preparing for the role of the He-Man in the Master of the Universe film. I'll put you on the VIP list and you should just go there. This is Hollywood, and this is how it's crash introduce yourself to the stars is done. Don't wait for the moment, make one. Alright, the rendezvous was set, but how do you stand out in the crowd? Matthias decided to wear boots, leather pants, and short-sleeve shirt. He was waiting by the entrance when limo pulled up. Dolph, with a lit cigar and bodyguard, stepped out of limo, looking exactly like in the movies, a walking statue of Greek god. Matthias got even more nervous, but he had to act now. So he stepped up and blocked Dolph's path to the restaurant. Hi, he said, I'm Matthias from Germany. I've heard you were working on the Master of the Universe movie and perhaps you could get me a part in it. Dolph looked him up and down, measuring his body, and said, well, maybe you could be my stand-in. If you don't know, a stand-in is someone who takes the star's place in front of the camera while the stage has been set. So the star doesn't have to be bothered with such things. But a moment later, Dolph remembered that he already had Ralph Müller as his signed stand-in, so there was no need for another one at the time. With that, the bodyguard pushed Matthias aside and Dolph proceeded into the restaurant. Devastated, Matthias was going crazy trying to understand what he had said or done wrong, not realizing that this isn't how one gets a role in the movie. It's a little more complicated and depends on a slightly different group of people in the industry, like the director, producer, and casting director. Sure, if you're a megastar, you can bring anyone you want, but Dolph wasn't in that category, not yet. A couple of days later, he heard about an audition. He got in his car, drove to the parking lot, and saw a line of guys all 6'5", from all kind of nationalities. Some were even bigger and taller than Matthias. Yeah, imagine that. Muscles everywhere. Darn it, this is insane. How am I going to make it? Matthias wondered. He stood in line for a few hours and finally got his chance to audition. Well, nothing came out of it. Another bodybuilder, Frank Langella, standing at 6'4", got the role of Skeletor. And even if Matthias had gotten the role, it would have been nothing but a mask, no face. Well aware that he wasn't anything like Van Damme and could never pull off those flashy high kicks, Matthias decided to try wrestling school and give this type of action a shot. Soon enough, he realized that while it was fun to get physical, wrestling lacked the vital component like acting that had drawn him in the first place. Most of all, he could not bring himself to deliver the over-the-top performance that wrestler required. He was too shy to be that much in your face. While grappling with this harsh reality, a call came from the manager at Gold's Gym, who used to be a stuntman. You wouldn't believe it, but I just got a word from Hong Kong. They need to replace that guy, what's his name? Van Damme. This was before Bloodsport, Kickboxer and Lionheart. So the story goes that Van Damme just walked out of the set for no apparent reason, and this was Matthias' chance to go ahead and audition. Once again, Matthias showed up wearing leather pants and muscle shirt. You know, that hideous bad guy dress code popular back in the 80s. This image also happened to be his acting shot in his resume. Unlike many actors who focused only on their face, Matthias understood well that his body was his golden ticket. He wanted producer and directors to focus on his prime real estate, his muscles. He got the idea from Gold's Gym, where he would place his full body photo next to Arnold's and Louis Ferrigno, and it would always get stolen. People really did take an interest in the way his body looked. When he got out of the car, Maria Cellina, the producer who wrote the script for the movie, yelled, "This is the guy. That's the guy for my next sci-fi movie." Another producer walked in, looking very confused. This isn't Van Damme type, too big, too tall, but it was too expensive to delay the shoot, so he took Matthias to the garden and asked him to fight one of his stuntmen. Matthias showed some moves since he knew the basics of martial arts, but the producer was not impressed. If you can't do the splits, you're not Van Damme. Luckily, Maria insisted, saying that if he didn't take Matthias, she wouldn't do the movie. By the way, Maria was also the one who discovered John Travolta. She was really well connected, even Bruce Lee used to hang out at her house. Many actors called her their Italian mama because she would frequently adopt young promising actors and help them get into the movie industry. While at Bangkok Hotel, Matthias gets called to come downstairs. There, he sees a camera set up, then another camera, and another, with thousands of people watching. It's actually a set ready to shoot. The director tells Matthias, "Show me what you got." "What do you mean?" Matthias asked. "Well, do the splits, do this, do that," the director responded, fully expecting a Van Damme-like performance. Nope. Matthias couldn't do anything like that. The director flips out, starting yelling in his native tongue, who knows what. We can loosely imagine it was a rather colorful description of what he thought of Matthias, and he walked off the set. They began filming without Matthias, and he was sent to a training camp in Bangkok to improve his martial arts skills. Before he left for camp, the director's last directive was, "If you don't know how to fight properly, then use your knowledge in Taekwondo and simply fake it till you make it." While training his butt off with some of the best movie fighters, he realized how much he actually liked it, the performance of martial arts. He had no fear of punches, falling, kicks, getting bruised, none of that, and it was thrilling. Well, at least back then when he was 26 years old. The pain meant nothing to Matthias, and in Hong Kong, it was a trait one had to master to have any shot at acting in martial arts film. Finally, the time came to once again show what he got. They brought him to the set and tried to get one good take. Matthias couldn't even deliver a single line of dialogue. The director hated every second of his tryout. All Matthias had to do was spin around in his chair and deliver a line. He couldn't even do that right, constantly missing the mark. The director ran over screaming and yelling, and another guy also came over telling Matthias that if he ever wanted to make it in the business, he should get plastic surgery. His nose was too big. Can this get any worse? All they wanted from him was to become Van Damme. Actually, this is no joke. They even cut his hair and styled it the same way Jean-Claude did. Eventually, they decided to drop this whole dialogue nonsense and go straight to the fighting scene. They brought the biggest and tallest fighter they could find in Hong Kong to the set. Matthias was so eager to prove himself that, due to the lack of experience in fake stage fighting, he actually hurt the poor guy pretty bad. To his surprise, it was actually what was expected in Hong Kong, as much reality as possible. Why do you think Jackie Chan had every bone broken in his body? Always perform as close to the real thing as possible, even if it can hurt you really bad or even put you into the ground. Matthias walked up to the director and said, "I'm willing to do anything, any stunt, no matter how dangerous or how much it may hurt. Drag me, punch me, whatever it takes." Matthias found himself somewhat enjoying this beatdown. The more it hurt, the better it felt. Yeah, there is a word for that, but I don't think he was into that kind of stuff. Matthias came to full realization that martial art was his ticket to the big screen, even taking acting classes that were just good enough to slightly polish his terrible skills in pretending. His very first role was a hand double for Ken Wall in Taking Beverly Hills, inserting an ammo magazine in a machine gun. His hand made it into the industry long before the rest of Matthias did. Then he played a bodybuilder on the beach with Tom Hanks in Dragnet. "I'm in the movies. They can see me now," thought Matthias. Everyone had their beginnings before they became actors. There was an endless line of martial artists who were really good at it, and each and every one wanted their shot at Hollywood. It's an incredibly competitive market. Matthias had to learn martial arts in order to be that competitive guy who would be picked up for the next big movie brewing on Hollywood stove. When you do this kind of movies, you have to learn from the best in the shortest time possible. You go to special training camps to get trained by guys who were in the movies like Raging Bull and The First Rocky. Those guys are really tough and had no mercy on Matthias. The very first day they split his lip, and then the next day, and the next. Every single day his lip was destroyed until he learned to keep his hands up, like a proper boxer. They wouldn't stop there. They would call him ridiculous names to bring rage out of Matthias. Benny Urquidez was particularly hard, trying to land every punch deliberately harder than needed. One day, one of the guys really hurt him badly verbally by calling him a girly man in front of everybody. The rage overcame Matthias and he charged the guy. The guy was on the floor faster than Matthias thought or realized. To his surprise, everyone was cheering for him. It was some kind of training camp graduation. They had finally manifested the rage out of Matthias and brought the real anger needed for the performance of a bad guy on film. Just like Bloodsport, No Retreat, No Surrender 2 was sitting on the shelf because executives did not believe in it and weren't ready to push it to the theaters. Matthias had to pull a couple of odd jobs like being a bodyguard, collecting money, working in Chippendales, working as a referee in Girls in Mud matches, and later in the evening shoveling that very mud out for the next day. All kind of weird things. With no place to live, he was crashing with a friend in his laundry room next to Pitbull on the floor. Typical lifestyle of martial arts film celebrity.
I can't take it. I'm not supposed to die like this. I'm a celebrity, damn it!
At last, the movie comes out and premieres at Hollywood Boulevard, a sold-out event. He went in to see the film as nobody, but walking out of the theater, he became a person of interest. All of a sudden, he was now recognized as a star. The very next day the phone rang, and he was asked to be part of an upcoming fistfight movie. They were about to cast 6'11" football player who, during the audition, in an attempt to demonstrate his acting abilities, decided to hold the producer upside down outside the 4th floor window by his ankles. That casting was very short-lived. Matthias got the job without audition. I guess producers learned their lesson: don't ask huge guy how strong they are. Still, neither movie brought in much money and Matthias was back to seeking any roles available, including a role in a Pee Wee Herman movie. The next phone call was rather a pivotal moment in Matthias's career. An agent was looking for a track and field athlete with the mandatory requirement of being about 6 feet 6 inches or taller. Matthias looked in the mirror, double-checked the requirement, and went to casting director's office at Universal Studios. As expected, there was another line full of big dudes waiting for the next call. This time, the producers were looking for someone who would actually do demanding physical activities, like jumping over the car and performing all kinds of stunts. The ultimate guy. The director took a long look at him, and that was love at first sight. He walked Matthias into another room, away from everybody else, and asked Matthias if he knew Dolph Lundgren. Do I know Dolph Lundgren? Do I know? Yeah, I know him. Well, said director, Dolph was the star of the movie. It's something like an Alien-Terminator mix, but Dolph doesn't want to play the role of an alien. Okay, so what's in it for me? Asked Matthias. You're gonna do it. You're gonna be the star of the movie. Now it's your movie, not his anymore. Because the movie is written for an alien, not a cop, and Dolph wants to play a cop. This is one of those episodes when a fresh movie star like Dolph from action movies believes that he could actually act. Dolph wanted to demonstrate to the world that he is a material for an Academy nomination. Hence he wants to play a dramatic character, a cop chasing an alien. It is a stupid mistake by Dolph, said the director. But what can you do? He's now a big shot, so let him crash and burn at his own pace. This is your chance now, Matthias. But here is the catch. You'll have to do everything I say. I say jump, you jump. You are not going to ask how high, you simply jump. Not a problem, responded Matthias. I have been making Hong Kong movies, well, only one, but who cares in this conversation. I'm used to this kind of ask. The role turned out to be way more dangerous than Matthias anticipated, literally risking his life more times than he could count. But his mission was basic. He lived to please the director. And also Dolph was in the movie. He had to make a stand because this was his last desperate attempt to make it big. Funny thing, he actually didn't have a work permit while shooting the movie. The producers didn't know Matthias had fake papers for his cover story. Oh well, simpler times back in the 80s. Back to the shoot. His stunt coordinator had very little faith in Matthias. Before each take, he would say, he's not gonna make it. He's gonna blow up. He's gonna break every bone in his body. Do you know why? Because at all times he had to wear those crazy contact lenses that made his eyes look inhuman. Yes, before CGI days, everything was real and practical. So Matthias couldn't see anything in those. He had to rely on his memory to know where to run and how far to jump. All he could see were shadows. He also had to wear lift shoes to make him significantly taller than Dolph because an alien had to be taller and meaner. So before every take, he would rehearse the action while having clear vision, do it as many times as it took to have muscle memory burned in, then put those insane moonwalking shoes and white cloudy lenses on and do the very same action sequences. Not to forget, most of it was done at the construction site and in significant elevation. With every take, nobody knew if it was time to look for another actor or if Matthias would survive yet another stunt. Every time the stunt coordinator would argue for Matthias's life, the director had just one line in response: he just has to run faster. That is typical low-budget 80s movie production. Everyone had to do their own stunt and there was no such thing as "we will fix it in post." Why do you think those actors were in such great shape? No CGI to buff anybody up. By the end of each day, Matthias had one simple thought: never again would I agree to do something like that. Still, he finally made it on the big screen with none other than his idol, Dolph Lundgren. In the middle of the production, company executives arrived on the set and decided to watch the first 10 minutes of the raw cut. Hollywood dealmakers were so impressed that they took Matthias to one of the fancy restaurants. Somehow he had to cram himself into one of the Porsches to ride to the place, to share the exciting news that they wanted to sign a 3-picture deal with him. Any studio in town, minimum of $1 million in salary each, because he was going to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Van Damme, or Bruce Willis. You're our next big guy action movie star. They were so sure about Dark Agent becoming the next Terminator sensation. As some of you may know, the movie did not do too well at the box office. Basically, it was a flop. It made around $4.4 million domestically against its $7 million budget, which is a complete utter disaster. The next time he met with the deal makers, he was told that the deal was off. His career was over, and so was for all of old school big muscle guys because the new generation of movie stars were taking over. He was referring to Brad Pitt, Keanu Reeves and such. You can just pick up your stuff and leave. By the way, the same was said to Arnold, to which he simply parted ways with them and came out the next year with the Terminator 2, smashing all kinds of box office records. But for the rest of the action movie guys, it was a fast track down to C-grade movies. Unfortunately, Matthias became one of the casualties of the 90s Hollywood pivot towards a new look, seeking a new audience and appealing to younger generations. Leaping forward in time, the rebirth of most of them came thanks to Sylvester Stallone's Expendables, which brought many old horses back for one last dance. Although, since Matthias did not have time to reach proper celebrity status, he wasn't on the invite list. In the end, because of Dark Angel, Matthias was caught by INS with his fake work permit papers. Huge scandal, but fortunately Columbia Pictures lawyers resolved the situation. As a result, Matthias received his green card. With the shift in the direction Hollywood was heading, most of the movies with Matthias went straight to VHS, also known as home theater. To stay afloat, he took roles in rather questionable films, but he still has a lot of fond memories about them. He is a giant with the kindest personality imaginable, such an underrated and underutilized talent. He simply missed his glory by a few years. If he had made it back then, there would have been no need to participate in such low-quality films. Matthias is still very active in the industry and hopes that one day, a modern generation of producers, directors and studio heads who used to watch his movies when they were kids will recognize the need to bring back real action heroes and larger-than-life villains to terrify and entertain us once more. Everything goes in circles. So perhaps the day we get to see Dark Angel, The Return of Matthias, is still on the table. Thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.